Good morning. I'm proud to be standing to be the next Mayor of the West Midlands Combined Authority, and I'm especially proud to be doing so as the Green Party candidate. The Green Party is enjoying increasing success nationally, regionally and locally. We now have over 370 councillors, including 86 in the West Midlands alone. We now share in the administration in 18 councils across England and Wales. Right here in the West Midlands, Solihull Green Party is on the verge of taking over control of that council at this year's local elections. Now in 2018, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change made it clear that 2030 has to be the target for wide-ranging systemic reorganisation of how we live, move and work. And this is a reality that only the Green Party acknowledges. So the Green Party is an increasingly relevant voice. Indeed, we are the third party of English and Welsh politics, and our voice is crucial because the climate emergency won't wait. But we also acknowledge it's hard to ask people to think about the next 9 years, when for many, the last 9 months have been the hardest of their lives. Now, this manifesto was first drafted before the COVID pandemic, and it was tempting to tear it up and to start again in light of recent events. But I quickly realised this wasn't necessary. The acute challenge COVID presented is really just a new lens on the chronic issues our region has been enduring for decades. And the last 11 years of austerity by successive Conservative governments has massively impacted everyone's life chances, but it also hampered the ability of our public services to respond when we needed them most. 130,000 people have died due to coronavirus, and we call for a public inquiry immediately to establish how many of those deaths are avoidable and how the fabric of our country has been damaged through our government's mismanagement of this national crisis. So the issues, poverty, car dependency, the housing crisis, lack of opportunity and lack of accountability are not new, and the prescription remains the same. Now this manifesto is that prescription. And before I set out what my mayoralty will look like, it's worth reflecting on the state of the Combined Authority as an institution today. The authority has a £900 million budget this year, so it's right that it is scrutinised at every turn. And we should remember that in 2012, both Birmingham and Coventry decided they didn't want a mayor, but one was imposed upon them anyway, with the powers to raise taxes if they so wished. So the Combined Authority and the mayor needs to be visible and accountable. But today, the authority is largely anonymous except for a few logos on our bus stops and train stations. And worse than this, despite a population of 3 million people, there is no elected assembly to scrutinise the actions of the mayor and of the authority. And this has to change. So I will lobby central government to permit the Combined Authority to hold elections for a West Midlands Assembly on the same day as the local elections in 2022, using a fair and proportionate voting system. The London Assembly provides a critical check and balance on the Mayor of London's actions, so I don't see why that system shouldn't be used here. Now, I will also embed the use of citizens' assemblies at all levels in the authority's decision-making processes, because we as politicians have to accept that we don't know everything, and that people are tired of watching the political class make bad, uninformed decisions that have the ability to ruin their lives and livelihoods. But part of the reason for the anonymity of the Combined Authority is the weakness of our devolution deal compared to both other regions and also to what real devolution should look like. 93% of all taxes are collected by the Westminster government. This needs to change if devolution is to have real meaning. I will therefore develop the case and lobby government for a new devolution settlement for the West Midlands that puts us on an even footing with London. Now, this settlement will unlock further central government funding, allowing us here in the 7 boroughs to make meaningful choices about how we run our region. I will also lobby government for the ability to design our own tax-raising policy, for instance around council tax banding and stamp duty rates. We need the ability to set and to target our own revenue-raising efforts in the fairest and most effective way possible. Now, of course, revenue from taxation is only feasible if our economy is capable of delivering it. No manifesto can neglect the engines of prosperity in the pursuit of even the noblest ideals. My economic vision for the West Midlands is innovative and recognises our unique history and potential. Now, the Combined Authority's website states that a strong economy raises the quality of life for everyone. But what is a strong economy? Is it chasing foreign direct investment, pandering to big business and measuring success in terms of GDP? Or is it thriving by incubating new business, anchoring wealth within the region, creating decent, well-paid jobs, and measuring results by impact on poverty? And the first is 20th century thinking. The second is the key to 21st century success, and it's what the West Midlands must do if we are all to prosper. We have to erase the flawed assumptions around our economy, like the assumption that growth will cure poverty, when today 1 in 3 children in the combined authority still lives in conditions that are surely unacceptable in one of the richest countries in the world. Or the assumption that employment will bring security when 700,000 people across the 7 boroughs are in work poverty. And the falsehood that GDP equals prosperity when more than half of West Midlands adults have less than £100 in savings. Now these people, our people, are 1 broken washing machine or 1 ruined winter coat away from real hardship, and that cannot be right. As your mayor, I will strive towards West Midlands where no one is destitute, where no more than 10% of people live in poverty at any time, and where no one is trapped in poverty for more than 2 years. And we start by changing the language we use. Instead of growth, we must speak about prosperity and community wealth building using our anchor institutions like hospitals, universities, public sector organisations to stimulate our economic activity. And this means reorganising how we work and recalibrating our economic goals to ensure no one is left behind. We also have to recognise the opportunities that the climate crisis presents. And I know that seems incongruent, referring to the biggest existential threat our species has faced as an opportunity, but it can be. If we have a vision to reimagine our economic organisation and make the West Midlands the heart of a genuinely green industrial revolution. Now the scale of this challenge is huge. 50 years ago, the West Midlands had the highest relative household earnings in Britain, and we've lost our way since then. And the current leadership shows no signs of righting that course. A new captain is needed for our voyage to a greener future. But in this future, you and I will still need to move about the West Midlands for work, family, social reasons. But in the West Midlands, our options are either owning a car or wishing we owned a car whilst waiting for the overpriced bus or train that might never come. Our car dependency is unhealthy, and I mean that literally. The evidence is clear that active travel is the cleanest, healthiest, and most efficient way to make short journeys. So I will champion initiatives to encourage walking and cycling to be the modes of choice for all who can so choose. We need world-class walking and cycling infrastructure. And we have examples of that in our region today, but those need to be the baseline and not the exception. I'm still seeing too many active travel initiatives that fall short of what's needed to make walking and cycling a truly viable alternative. And our public transport system has to step up to the plate if we're to break our car dependency. If it isn't a real option, it isn't doing its job as we face the climate crisis. And it was heartening this month to see the Mayor of Greater Manchester adopting a Green Party policy, as so many politicians do when they think we're not looking, and deciding to implement bus franchising in that great city. As your Mayor, I will do the same here in the West Midlands. Good bus services are both a huge enabler of economic capacity and a crucial social and public service. It's obvious that bus deregulation has failed, so it's time to end that experiment and bring buses back under public control. We will also need best-in-class train, tram and very light rail services if they're to be a compelling alternative to car use. But the recent news that the Secretary of State has overturned Birmingham City Council's planning decision and by so doing jeopardised the Bordesley Courts project is a perfect example of both why further devolution is necessary and why the idea that a Conservative mayor in particular has some extra influence is just flawed. Robert Jenrick ignored us, and throwing up a few more stations on existing lines isn't going to cut it if availability, frequency and reliability don't improve. That's why I will look at the map of deprivation across the combined authority and make sure the best and most frequent services run in the areas that need them the most. We also need to consider how we pay for our public transport. Now, over 50 cities and regions in Europe alone offer fare-free public transport to some or all of their citizens. And I will make public transport free for all to the age of 19. And I will also back the proposed study by Birmingham City Council on a fare-free public transport system for all, with a view to extending this across the 7 boroughs if it can show to be viable. And we must, however, remember that for some a car will remain essential, whether for health, employment or family reasons. So we need to make sure our electric vehicle charging infrastructure is developed at a rapid pace so that there are no barriers to the adoption of electric vehicles. And we must ensure that the key roads network is maintained appropriately. But we must also recognise that electric vehicles are not a magic bullet. There are simply too many cars on our roads, and changing how they're powered will not cure all our problems. Finally, we must be ready to take the big decisions about how we incentivise the shift from car use to active travel and mass transit. So I welcome the clean air zones and low traffic neighbourhoods implemented by Birmingham City Council. And as Mayor, we'll press to see more of these measures implemented across the 7 boroughs. However, this must be done in collaboration with our residents and not be inflicted upon them as it has been up until now. Now, as well as a transport system fit to respond to the climate crisis, we must also address the housing crisis that is blighting our boroughs. According to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, everyone has the right to housing. But across the West Midlands, it is clear that we are failing our citizens in this aim. Homelessness continues to increase, and an average house is unaffordable on an average wage. And this is a big problem that needs a big solution. The market-driven approach to housing supply has managed only to make housing less and less attainable, so a new approach is needed. A renewed focus on house building by local authorities, housing associations and cooperative providers can address the housing shortage and provide genuinely affordable options to everyone, regardless of income. And where we put those new homes is critical. Despite the professed brownfield first approach of the current mayor, in my own borough of Solihull, 16 of 18 sites identified in the latest housing plan are in our green belt. Yet at the same time, our high streets are declining in the face of the online shopping revolution. Now, many years ago, high streets were much more than just shopping destinations, and they must become so again. Under my mayoralty, we will seek to prioritise the mixed-use redevelopments of our town centres so that they can thrive once more. However, as well as new build, we must also prioritise the essential retrofitting that will make our current housing stock fit for the 2030s and beyond. Now, this is a huge programme that can deliver huge benefits, so one of my first actions as mayor will be to lobby government to secure funding to kick off a region-wide retrofitting scheme. I will also look at the thousands of dwellings that currently stand uninhabited and create a plan to bring these back into use as part of our response to the housing crisis. Now, in June 2019, the Combined Authority declared a climate emergency and set 2041 as its latest possible date to be carbon neutral. But the research that informed this target has been superseded, and not recently. In 2018, the IPCC confirmed we need to move faster and further than we originally thought if we're to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees, a temperature increase that will in any case mean a significant impact to our way of life. So it's unbelievable that the Combined Authority continues to target 2041 in the face of this information. Under my mayoralty, we will acknowledge scientific reality and make 2030 the target date for carbon neutrality across the West Midlands. Now, there are 3,161 days from May the 7th to 2030, and each one of those must be made to count if we're to avoid climate catastrophe. Now, as I said earlier, this is also our opportunity. If we embed that 2030 target across our strategy, and I will appoint a deputy mayor with this as part of her overall mission statement, then with bold vision and leadership, the West Midlands can become the green powerhouse that delivers the solutions for the rest of the country and beyond. Now, whether this is in technological research and development, energy citizenry, public sector-led initiatives, or best practice around recycling and planning policy, there is so much that we can do to make 2030 achievable if the will and the direction is there. And we must remember that as much as we face a climate crisis, we also face a biodiversity crisis. We must actively protect our wildlife and our green spaces, not only for the good of the species that depend on them, but for the good of our species too. Now, it's well understood that time spent in nature improves mental health and reduces the need for spending on healthcare interventions. Studies have shown that this can be as much as £30 saved for every £1 invested in high-quality public spaces. But I want to reiterate something. No matter the targets we set, it is not fair to expect ordinary folks to support extraordinary changes whilst their basic needs are neglected. That is why we must rise to meet the poverty, housing and transport challenges we face if we're to also defeat the climate emergency. We can't do this without everyone's help. And the West Midlands is one of the youngest and most diverse regions in the UK. And we need to recognise this as the obvious strength that it is when we consider how to reboot our economy and face down the climate crisis. But too little is being done to include all our communities, and this has to end. The fact is that those with the least power end up doing the least well, and I intend to redress that injustice. There are too many who are not currently heard loudly enough, whether it's our isolated elderly, for whom the TV is the main source of companionship, women who still struggle for equal pay and conditions, our disabled residents for whom the austerity-driven assault on their finances has been so difficult to bear, our LGBT plus communities who inexplicably still face both overt and indirect discrimination, our ethnic and cultural minorities dealing daily with ignorance and prejudice, or the refugees fleeing war-torn regions and craving sanctuary with their families already in the UK. Now, I will be a visible and engaged champion of equality and diversity across our region, using our citizens' assemblies to uncover the root causes behind the challenges that still exist today in the West Midlands. And I will lobby for the appropriate level of community liaison within the Combined Authority, West Midlands Police, and the constituent authorities. I will make gender pay gap reporting compulsory for all firms contracted by Transport for West Midlands, and I'll encourage the Combined Authority to do the same. And I will work tirelessly with all our partner organisations to seek out and extinguish discrimination and inequality throughout the West Midlands. Finally, I want to speak about public health and well-being, which is a topic that has been in clear focus in recent months. The current public health system is fragmented and siloed, resulting in organisations rarely working well together and sometimes even at cross purposes. Now, whilst the government is bringing forward proposals for how to integrate these services, it's not clear that these are actually going to fix the long-term problems that we know exist. But we also can't rely on the government that inflicted the Lansley reforms on us to get local health services right. These services and their funding need to be devolved to us in the same way as is the case in Greater Manchester. So I will ask central government to make this happen as part of our revised devolution settlement, as well as working with GPs, hospitals and social work departments to understand how best to integrate their services to better serve our residents. But we also need to reimagine the Combined Authority's role in promoting health and happiness. Too much of our focus is on economic matters, which neglects the link between public health and productivity. Now, household income massively affects health outcomes, of course, but it's not the only consideration. I will make well-being scores the headline measures of the Combined Authority's performance during my term in office, and I will clearly publish these on a monthly basis on the Authority's website. We need to prove the Combined Authority is working for the benefit of all the people. Now, due to the severe impact of poverty and low incomes on public service demand, it seems obvious to me that by addressing these issues in my economic vision, we can also improve the availability and performance of those services. So I will ensure that the Combined Authority pays a living wage as an employer, and I will encourage its contractors to do so as well. I will also assess the impact of every mayoral decision on reducing inequality across the 7 boroughs in line with the socio-economic duty of the Equality Act 2010. Finally, I will lobby government to introduce a universal basic income pilot in the Combined Authority, and I'll encourage the constituent authorities to do the same. Now, this manifesto, I'm confident, will be quite unlike those put forward by the establishment parties. We have, for too long, tinkered at the edges of a socio-economic model that has substantively failed to improve life chances for the majority of our residents. The divides between us are bigger than ever, and the looming climate crisis only makes it yet more urgent that we heal them as quickly as possible. Now, a saying I'm fond of is, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. And in the forthcoming election, you have a choice between the tired establishment politics of Team Red and Team Blue, or a radical new vision for how the West Midlands can reimagine itself to face the next decade and beyond. Now, the Green Party is already trusted by tens of thousands of people throughout our region to provide an alternative to the status quo. On May the 6th, I ask you to send a clear message to the political establishment that we're tired of business as usual and that we need a West Midlands that works for everyone. Tell them we need an end to the poverty scandal. We need a genuinely green industrial revolution, and we need a transport system we can actually use. And I ask you to do that by giving me your first vote to be the next mayor of the West Midlands.